Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at the Springbank 10 Local Barley 2019. Comes in at 56.2% ABV. Dustin, your bottle.
Yep.
We thought we were all getting this bottle many times over at a great deal. Turns out you were the only one that were able to secure your bottle at a reasonable price, but sometimes we take losses in the whiskey industry. Anyway, You folks don't know what we're talking about. It's just the usual rigors of trying to get very limited edition single malt Scotch whiskeys to us here in the United States. This one only 9,000 bottles made.
There's a good 15, 20 people who are going to watch this video who are very well aware of the story on this one.
Yes. Not easy to get a hold of. Then when we thought we had it and secured bottles, then that didn't happen, and prices were mispriced and misquoted, and we're lucky and fortunate to finally be here reviewing this whiskey, because we always love the local barley.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, we drink a lot of old whiskeys, and every now and then people are like, gosh, you just can't drink anything that's not old? I can.
Yeah, great young whiskey.
Yeah, this is one of them. Every time. These are kidders.
Now, so local barley, just to guys let you know, Springbank Distillery, Campbelltown. These particular ones, more so than the core range, to me are my favorite versions of them. They come out with a special one every year. Is it every year?
Every year they've done it for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And I think there's another 10-year one coming out this year. Mm-hmm. And it is a sherry bomb from the picture I saw. Yeah, so as far as cask maturation on this particular 2019, you're looking at 77% of it coming from bourbon casks, 30% sherry, and 3% port, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Yeah, they like to, every now and then, they put a little drop of port in there.
It's a beautiful wood.
Yeah, I love port and Springbank when they combine. And then this is the Optic Barley. Yeah. So again, this is like locally grown, homegrown, farms. And they've got a couple farms. I can't remember all the details, but
I'll put it in the description.
Yep.
Where the actual barley came from here locally. But to me, some of my favorite Springbanks. Recent commenter asked where the 32-year-old local barley is in the shelf and in the whiskey turntable, but we still haven't found that 32-year-old.
As soon as I have my car paid off, guys, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I need to get Dustin on that 32-year-old local barley, but we have this 10 here today.
I did see that comment. So, Mike, I'm getting right away. You're getting that earthiness. You're getting that local barley coming through. Mm-hmm. They really like to showcase that. They definitely don't overpower their natural malt with the casks.
No.
But I think they've got nice casks that complement it well here.
Yeah. You often use the phrase showcase the malt, in whiskeys. And this is an example of just getting out of the way. Not trying to overdo anything with the cask maturation, but the cask they did pick, again, probably dominated by that bourbon cask, 77% maturation. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm just picking up those lovely candied vanillas on this particular one.
Definitely vanilla, but there's an earthy hardiness. This is like you've made some kind of, like if you've made barley soup or something. Like you've made something just beautiful.
Nosing of it, at the very tail end, you get that port cask influence. Mm-hmm. Just at the tail end, just some like light plum skin.
Yeah, a little darkness, a little depth. Mm-hmm. One thing I also worry about sometimes with these 10-year-old whiskeys is you get that fresh off the still note. That little bit of like astringency, sour, not here at all. Yeah. Zero.
Nothing off-putting.
This, if you told me this was 18-year-old whiskey, I couldn't argue with you because again, it's not giving me the spirity notes. And the oak has done a really nice job of showing up here. It's there, but it's not interrupting anything. As
far as the refinement, as far as not picking up the alcohol notes, this does a better job than the 10 does. Yeah. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, the 12. The 12 cask strength.
Oh, yeah.
The usual release. That comes off more spirity than this does. And again, this is younger at a similar ABV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've really done a good job. They probably cut this a little bit more narrow, perhaps, Mike.
Very possible.
Very possible. They're doing a slightly narrower cut just to make sure they don't get that. Yeah, this is just, it's earthy. I'm not picking up the coastal elements I get a lot of times on Springbanks here. It's more like, it's like being in a barn with like a lot of sweetness, a lot of vanillas. There's a hint of baker's chocolate.
Yeah, everything to me is sweet on this one. I do get a little bit of earthiness, but it's almost like, the first really nice day of spring on a farm. If I were to say it was anything, it's just, the earth is, had some rain and it smells fresh and, everything is new. That's probably the best way I can describe it. But yeah, just as always, a beautiful nosing whiskey. All the local barleys from the 16 down to the 9, all of them have nosed wonderfully. What are you picking up about?
So now when you go to drink it, it's a whole different beast. It's a little spicy. I'm just picking up the ABV, but I'm also picking up just a little bit of oak tannins. I get the vanilla. And then I start to notice a little bit of hints of chocolate that make me think sherry. And then the finish, those plums and other things come in really nice. So you kind of get all three casks. Even though, again, there's only 3% of that port. That must have been an active port cask. Mike?
I couldn't agree more. My first thought was, I can't believe there's only 3% of that's port, because I'm tasting a ton of it. Especially as for, the mid palate, it kind of came in because at first it was vanilla, and then kind of took over the mid palate. And as soon as I swallowed, you could get that plum skin note all the way down, and that was the dominant thing on the finish, at least until the first 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, it almost makes me think that port is older, because I almost get a little bit of dunnage there in the finish, and 10 years I shouldn't be getting dunnage.
Yeah, it tastes, I know we use this word usually with older whiskey, but it's kind of dirty. You know what I mean? Like, it reminds me of those Caden Highland Parks, like that 28-year-old. It almost comes off that sort of dunnage on the back end.
It's just a drop. It's not a lot. It's not overpowering, but there's just a hint
It's
of
the
it
center.
there.
It's the center of the donut, and you got the vanilla and icing around it.
Yeah, and then of course you get, I think I'm starting to get a little more of a coastal, a little bit of Springbank, hints of peat, hints of salt. It's all in there, but it's really well done. And this is while it's super sweet on the nose, the palate is a little more spicy, earthy. It's still super sweet, but it's got a lot more depth and complexity than the nose did.
It's a lot darker on the palate. It's a lot darker on the palate. Those port wine casks really come out and shine on the palate and on the finish. You got a whiff of it, again, just kind of at the tail end of the nose, but man, it took over the experience the second you took a sip.
Yeah.
To me anyway. I'm shocking. If only 3%, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean they all did a finishing in port? It was first fill?
They usually tell you that they did a transfer. They're just saying 3% of these casks, and there's only 9,000 bottles, so that means 1/2 barrel.
Yeah, a barrel that was aged to some degree. Maybe that's older whiskey. Who knows? But for it to come off so dominant on the palate on the finish, it doesn't translate to 3%.
Yeah.
At all.
So when I go with water, the first little hint I got here was super fruity, super sherried, but then I went for a second nosing, and I guess I pulled all those characters out of the glass, because now I'm getting the salt, I'm getting the Springbank character.
It is salt, and it's dough that's slightly gone too bad.
Yeah, a touch of sawdust.
That's a good note too.
And there's a little bit of, I want to say sourdough.
Yeah, almost like a GW grinders.
Yeah, it's starting to make me think younger whiskey now, that there's a little water in here. At the very end, that last note, I tend to pick up on younger whiskeys, but it's not an unpleasant note. I almost think of it as like an Elmer's glue and bread.
No, when I said dough that left out a little bit too long, sourdough that's just been toasted lightly. I'm saying the same thing as you, but you're right. It needed that high ABV to bring all the flavors and everything together. It needed to amass something about it. That water, even with just a couple of drops, I didn't put a lot in here.
No, you didn't.
It really unraveled it.
But I still enjoy it. It's actually become a little bit more complex of a whiskey in a different way.
It became more of a Campbelltown style whiskey.
Yeah.
If that's what you're going for.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little less of the local barley element.
No, this is very made by the sea, salty, maritime, with the vanilla taking a big step back. And at this point on the nose, you almost don't even pick up those port casks at all.
God.
What are they going to say?
The flavor's just explosive on here now. It's brought out some of the oak. It's brought out some tannins. It's brought out more peat. Brought out more salt. But I'm still getting a little bit of chocolate there from the sherry. I'm still getting the port, but it's less strong.
Less dominant.
I'm definitely still getting the vanilla from those bourbon barrels. And I'm still coming back and thinking, this does not drink like 10-year-old whiskey. This drinks like it spent more time in the barrels, or it's just an incredibly narrow cut they used.
We put water in everything we review. Most of the time I say, water didn't help it.
Yeah.
Or water wasn't its friend, or I prefer it neat, somewhere along those lines. This is why I want to put water in everything, because at first you think it's a 10-year-old whiskey. Cask strength, you have to put a lot of water in to change it a lot. But not the case. This, a little bit of water changed this quite a bit. It's almost like two different whiskeys.
Yeah.
That's always kind of the telltale sign of a strong offering as far as the bottling goes. And for it to only be 10 years old, that's impressive.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is impressive.
And again, this is impressive for a 20-year-old whiskey. I've got 20-year-old whiskeys that wouldn't hold a candle to this whiskey.
But that's, the price of it is also that of many 18-year-old whiskeys. You know, these things aren't cheap. You know, usually, you know,
Retail's about 180.
yeah,
here.
180, 190, something like that. We thought we were going to steal them for $80 a piece at once upon a time. That didn't quite work out for us. But
And I had a second chance. I thought I was getting them for 100. It didn't happen.
yeah, so,
I did actually get this one at a nice price, but
you know, but you know that low, high 100 range, you know, just below 200. That's about right for this one. This is a high quality whiskey, and don't be turned off by the low age statement. Because I tell you what, I like the 16. I had a bottle at 16, as you know. I don't know if I like the 16 that much more than any of the other releases. I wasn't a huge fan of the 9, but both 10s were solid. I liked the 11.
I gotta say the 16 did come off better. I had it pretty recently.
It's the best of the group.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I didn't think it was, you know, I thought these brought you 95% of what that gave you.
Sure. There was some distinct differences. That one was brighter and sweeter.
It was good whiskey.
It's Mike's score.
Yeah, that's what I've been kicking around. I've been kicking that around, Dustin.
Yeah, why don't you go first? Because I'm going to probably go higher than you did. So I wanted to get your thoughts first.
You know, it's a beautiful whiskey. Mm-hmm. It's a whiskey that I'd pay $150 for all day. Therefore, I'm going to give it a relatively similar score to that price point. I'm giving it 89 out of 100.
90.
90.
This is a bottle I would actually go 300 on easily.
Yeah, they're good.
As much as I hate to say it, I actually like the last 10 a little bit more than this one. Side by side, it's really close.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you've been killing this bottle. He's had this literally what, 3 weeks?
Something like that, yeah. There was a couple samples, small samples poured, but yeah, it's mostly been
That's not
me.
where most of the damage came from.
No, it mostly came from me. There were like 3 nights where I just couldn't put this bottle down.
It's an excellent whiskey.
Yeah, and I got a chance to do this one side by side, next to the 16, the 11, and the other 10. I got to do all of them, and over 2 nights. I didn't do them all the same night.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably my third favorite of the group, but it's a close third, with the 9-year being unfortunately a little further out for me.
Yeah, I agree. The 9 was the least of the ones that I tried too, and I've tried them all.
Yeah, they're great whiskeys.
Great whiskeys. All right, so that's right for his whiskey score. I'm 89. Dustin's at a 90. He always ranks Springbank a tick higher than I do, unless it's 25, but that's the rules we play.
Yep.
All right, so until next time, we want to once again thank you for joining for another whiskey review, and we'll wish the folks, Dustin.
Happy drinking.
See you next time.